You all set, Bakes?
Yeah, my phone's frozen. I'm ready to throw it across the room, but I'll refrain for now.
Got your collar adjusted, ready to
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
All right,
yeah.
everybody, welcome to Wall Street
I'm
Beats.
tightly wrapped. I
I'm
admit it.
Steve Lamar. Today, I'm joined by our Momentum and Technicals Pro Kevin Bakes Baker and our Retail Pro Jeff Mackey. Mackey, I gotta know what does that say on the hat? Looks like
Oh, it's a Naval Academy hat.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That looks cool.
Yeah. My kids there training the plebes this summer, so it's fun.
All right, that's good. He's on the giving end instead of the receiving end.
He's a detailer. That's quite a that's a nice occasion for those kids to go to switch sides in that little event.
Exactly.
It's a good summer. It's a great school.
Exactly. All right, good. All right, so I don't know, guys. Where do you want to start this morning? I bet you everybody's heard enough about Nike. Although it's been hard to watch. It's hard to watch the U.S. Open the first day, seeing Serena out and Sinner. My God. And Jeff, I saw that piece you wrote about about the problem he was having with his shoes. For heaven's sakes, I mean, good God.
Just crazy. And I kind of wanted to get ironically long. I'm not sure if that's a technical term, but just because like if Nike topped when Zion's shoe blew up, scraping the flesh off the number one tennis player in the world's foot in literally his first match of Wimbledon, which he's 60% to win. Everyone's gone. I mean, it's promotions aren't everything. God knows, I think Nike overpays for them. But if you're going to sponsor these athletes, make shoes that fit. Just having a shoe full of blood. It was so graphic that the US feed just kind of stopped showing the shoe. I'm not sure. Insert your conspiracy theory here, but it seemed like a fascinating story for the first round of Wimbledon when he's just kind of playing this Serbian guy and tearing all the flesh off his foot and bleeding through his shoe.
Is that like any advertising is good advertising?
Not in this case, no, because again, there was just a lot of blood. The BBC broadcasters were joking that if Sinner bled anymore, he was going to be violating the all-white policy of Wimbledon, where you have to wear all white clothing, and they were suggesting his shoe is in fact that blood ridden. It's not a huge thing, but that's it's a symptom. And man, are there a lot of symptoms. I listened to that call this morning because I was going to write a follow-up piece, and it's just like, this is not a company that's worth it. I'm listening to Kohl's right now. I kind of have a super hard time giving a crap about a company executing this poorly. People want to buy this stock. It was really bad guidance. Nothing is particularly working, and it's not clear they have a plan to fix it. So that's bad. But I think the clock is ticking on Elliott Hill, which sounds bizarre, but he's been there 2 years. His strategy was to not be the last guy. That's fine, but man, you're scraping the flesh off Sinner's feet. You got Jordan that was not great. Apparel's not great. That's half the company. It's a real problem. And I don't know, Michael Jordan, God knows he earned his billions for them, but do you advertise like are you coming out with a Dr. J line of shoes? He could jump really well too, but he's not going to move a ton of product for you. If the product is lousy, you don't have a choice. I'm also watching Walmart today. More interestingly, there's a real breakdown going on. Bakes, pull up that chart. If you take Walmart off the name, that's an icky looking chart right there, and I think we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Nothing good happens under the 200-day. And boy, is this exhibit A. It doesn't matter how big you are. No, that's an immutable law of nature. That's aging, death, and balding in terms of what happens with technicals. Once you get under the 200-day.
Call Tudor Jones.
Yep. And so they're actually having a much worse day than they were down 5% today, which is a big deal for a company that size.
On a gap down with the relative strength line confirming, and look at the volume, which has been doing this. This is a series of gap downs going over the last couple of months. What's their sin today?
And that's just it. Not much. I mean,
that's even worse.
Yeah, and so I think people are just sort of working their way through who's not going to make a ton of money and who's been investing in AI and everything else quite a bit. Walmart's guilty of both those things. I've argued here before, elsewhere, and I just kind of believe, so I'll run my mouth whenever, that there are companies that are going to benefit. Amazon and Walmart are two of them, where you have a real clear line to profits. You're not just betting on bigger, better, faster LLMs that get their energy from space or the planet Plutron or something. It's not a real pie in the sky thing to realize that kind of agentic shopping is a huge deal if you carry 1 million products and you're trying to get them to customer stores in 2 hours. That's huge. The amount people are willing to pay for that can vary quite a bit. Walmart's not cheap here. I'm long them in a taxable account, or, I was younger and smarter then. It's not really a boast. It's more, I go from feeling trapped to feeling smug about it, and a little bit of both. So, I don't think we go down 50% to make it worth selling. It's not, a Lulu catastrophe doesn't seem to be looming, but it's not good. And we're
Bakes, where on the chart is support? Where do you start? Where does this start getting interesting?
$100. Round numbers.
Okay.
That's why I had two, Bakes. That's exactly what I was going to say. It seems to have a date with 100, and that seems almost like it's just tattoo it.
That's been it's been touched a bunch of times since April of last year, and it's a logical round numbers. It's just a logical place for it to. And that's only $8, but even still. And then I always like to find out, how does it act when it gets there? If the volume picks up and slices through it like butter, that's a bigger problem. If the volume evaporates and it stalls and comes down like a feather versus a brick, then I'm more interested. But right now it's
especially down. By the time it gets there, it'll be down nearly 30%. So that's a meaningful little yoink there. It's not a cheap stock. Again, I've owned it for years. You look at the yearly chart. You look at that. It's not. You've had bumps along the way. They don't look so big now, but if you do it logarithmically, you can see. It's of course you've had bumps. It's a great performer. There isn't a great performer on earth that hasn't had a quarter or two that kind of let you in. So I'm not really super sweating it. They're great allocators of capital and really good at what they do, but. It doesn't, I do have money that I will choose to use to buy or sell. I have an open to buy, as we say in retail. And, you're picking stocks that you'd want to buy. That's not a stock I would want to buy. And if there's a way to figure out how to make money off it hitting 100, maybe there's a Kalshi bet. I don't know. It's a little penny. It should be, it's honestly, this is just an expensive thing to try to find an options trade for a 7% move, even for something as big and staid as Walmart. But man, if you put I would actually make this bet. I would be happy to stand on a street corner and just have the suckers come to me and my little cardboard table and just bet whether or not Walmart hits 100, because it looks like it's going there.
So sell $100 puts. Take what you
can do that. It's I'm not sure how panicky people are. Not other people aren't really talking about it. It's just an oddity to me because Nike had the balls to blame the consumer. I'm sure whatever it's the reason that Walmart is down is going to get laid at some point on the consumer, but the consumer's pretty much fine. That's gonna work itself out just fine. Spoiler, we're not morons. People have been worried about the consumer plenty of times in the past. The data is just not there. We're just spending. I'm sorry. And so to make a negative consumer case, you got to think people are idiots.
What has the whisper like? What is the chatter about? What's going on at Walmart here? Why down 20+% here in the last
they're spending a lot of money. They're doing a lot of different stuff. They're trying to grow an ad business. They're not ad people. It's on a realistic basis, they're taking share from Amazon, kind of. They're both taking so much damn share from everybody online that it's hard to really, pick on either one of them. But they're $150 odd billion internet business at this point, which is second by 900 miles. They are way ahead in that race. So, and they make money doing it. That's good. It's people aren't morons to pay, or at least not want to sell 35 times earnings. It just is not a real buy thesis until you get to like 15. At that point, you back up the truck, it makes all the beeping noises, and you chuck as much as you can in the trunk of your car.
Yep.
Amazon looks dramatically better. Look at the up volume here. on the
kind of out of nowhere. Amazon looked into the abyss and it found its soul, like Lou Manheim would say. You know, that stock was not looking great, but they've kind of diverged paths in the last just few days. You know, but this is all just kind of stuff you talk about when it's a holiday weekend and everyone's watching the World Cup, but we're realistic.
Yeah. And so you're still no touch on Nike. Not going near it.
Oh, I just walk away. I mean, it's Lulu. You know, to turn a company around, it's not impossible. I've made money before turning around. There's a lot of money to be made. And since retailers are so kind of capricious and they go back and forth, they make great trading stocks that way. But you can't just be cheap. That's not a turnaround thesis, even though Nike's not cheap because the E keeps going lower. But even if it were, that's fine. What you have is sentiment. You have the idea that people want to own this and say all kinds of patriotic things. And oh boy, you know, a lot of little girls play soccer.
They make their stuff with child labor in China. I mean, you know.
Yeah, that's another thing they like to say. But, you know, it's at some point between 180 and where it is now, we've priced that into the stock. Their politics should be priced in. It's just a matter of execution. And to the point I'm making in terms of buying it, because people really ask me about their stock quite a bit. You know, it's got to buy Nike. Oh, you put that in a drawer for 20 years and you're going to be great.
You saved a lot of people a lot of money from the mid 90s where you're saying, don't touch this thing. So
it matters if you just kind of, you know, what you pay matters. And it can bounce today because, you know, it's not a fresh thought to realize they're screwed. But, you know, it's apathy isn't enough. It's a start. And so now they're going to eventually, it'll be sooner rather than later. Elliott Hill is going to be under pressure because just not being the last guy isn't enough. He's been there 2 years and they're showing no signs of improvement. And that's a real problem.
All right.
You know, I'm always struck by, you know, people want to get nostalgic and you know, oh, this stock was so great. Well, that's irrelevant. The market is a merciless umpire, and if he calls you out, you're out. And you can spit on him, but I wouldn't recommend it. And, you know, people hold on to Starbucks used to be great and Netflix used to be great. Well, that's when you're using the past tense, get your sell tickets out and go on to do something else.
And it can work, but you just need you actually need to turn the company around. You know, it's the stock's way down because no one believes. It turns out that the non-believers were really super right. And
see Robert Merson.
I'm sure, you know, you can see there's a big room. It's Nike throws nice parties and stuff for the street, and they're an easy stock to sell if you run a brokerage. So they're popular among the analysts, much more so than the people that actually analyze stuff and then use our own money to buy and sell it.
But let me ask you about this. Like, what did they say yesterday? This I can't even see the uptick here. I mean, it's up 3% on big volume, but it's you know, the knife might be on the floor, but I don't think that's definitive. Why is everybody talking about this?
Slow news day, $50 billion. They can't believe how far they've fallen. And you know, get a couple more percent on it, and it's going to be it's sold out. All the bad news is priced in. Now, here's the problem with that. Just because I've put on a pair of shoes or two in my time. What they did was they took down the first half and they're hoping the second half margins and revenues will be better, holy crap, you know, maybe don't short hope always just because it's better to be optimistic. It makes you less of an insufferable ass as you go around the street, but don't apply hope to your turnaround strategies. I'm hoping the second half's going to be good. I would have hoped that they would have a Caitlin Clark shoe on the market by now, instead of just in prototypes and ready to go on sale during the off season. You know, again, none of these really matter that much, but it's like, holy shit, it's the WNBA. Like, she's actually in the news cycle now, and she won't be in November. That's when you're coming out with a shoe. You people are out of your freaking minds. Just like maybe I'm missing something on the manufacturing. I think I have a decent understanding of it. And I think a lot of other companies, I think Adidas would have the freaking shoe out by now.
Speaking of Adidas, I see a lot more Adidas. I see a lot more Puma at the World Cup this year. Is that a signal? Are they taking share? It looks like most everybody.
I don't think Nike should be advertising that much. They're doing okay in soccer. They always do. And you know, even though it's here, I don't know. You know, it's last year or a couple of years ago Nike made a big deal out of how visible they were in Paris, and that didn't do a hell of a lot for them. I think they pay people too much. I think they pay Michael Jordan way too much. Michael Jordan has all the relevance of Bob Cousy to my kid. Like he just doesn't care. He's a surly guy that plays golf and is not walking around looking great. You don't see him and say, damn, he's just a well-dressed man. You see him and say, I'm not going to gamble against him. And, hey, look, he's a great basketball player. Let's not golf with him because he seems like he'd be kind of an ass.
Not the best reputation for sure, unfortunately.
Well, just not a
which
fashion
is disappointing to us old
the
Jordan
shoes
fans.
don't sell as much as they do. Like LeBron can't move shoes. Steph Curry couldn't really move shoes. It's just a different day and age. And so, it's which is fine. They've done fine and it still is making them money, but it's shrinking now and they have no idea why. Just maybe it's time to come up with something new. This is a company that used the word innovate over 45 times in a conference call. I think it was 2 years ago. I was actually in Annapolis. So it was just about 2 years ago when my son was being inducted because I listened to the call in a nice little diner and had my crab cake omelet and counting the number of times they're saying innovate because I just can't freaking believe it. I'm and it's 2 years later.
And we've seen none.
There's no innovation.
Yeah.
No. Where are my rocket shoes? Where's my flying car? What the hell are you guys doing?
All right. Anything else you're looking at? I want to move over to Bakes here and see what's on his radar screen this morning.
I'm watching soccer. I'm just trying to learn the rules and hope the Euros have a nice time.
Amen.
Is there any beer left in Boston, Bakes?
Yes, we managed to recover nicely. You throw that gauntlet down and the Bostonians respond. So I think Sam Adams went on the 3 shifts. So we're working. We're working.
Got it. Got the stockpiles back up. Okay, good.
Amen. I just wanted, and I think Mackie, I think you were on the show when I talked about the Bitcoin levels, and I just want to update people. Okay, we took out here's 104.17, and to recap for those that weren't here. I said I am getting. I think maybe it was Bob Morris. I'm short Bitcoin through BITI, which shorts the futures, which is imperfect, but it's the only thing I can do given my compliance situation and what have you. But I was looking for sort of accelerants and triggers. Well, MicroStrategy, this 104.17 level, we've clearly taken that out on big volume. So. This is a leverage play on Bitcoin. He just announced that he's going to sell $1.25 billion. When he sold 32 Bitcoin, he said he was inoculating the market like he was a public service announcement. There are no altruists in this world, and Michael Saylor surely isn't one either. And I watched this closely, and I don't have personal animus, but when you have a stock that goes from 450 down to 94, something's wrong. Something's really wrong. And I'll go more on that later. Bitcoin itself is playing around 58,000. I don't have that chart here, but I'm watching 58,000 on Bitcoin itself. And someone seems to want to make that a floor. We'll see if it holds. And I said before, it's possible that 58's the floor and it roars and I'm wrong and I lose 15% of my 10% position. But if I'm right, and this Bitcoin, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, which took out its level that I mentioned last week, 45.88. Okay, right back here, and we took that out, not by a lot, but we took it out, and so I'm getting, I'm waiting for the cascade to happen, and so this is BITI. And
when's the next big IPO, and that's when you're going to see the next selling pressure on Bitcoin.
Ooh, well, that might be the case, or it might just. And this is why I brought this up today. It might just be mundane, where IBIT. Okay, this is the BlackRock Bitcoin Trust. This is January of 24. I can't believe it's that long ago, but this is the launch of Bitcoin Trust. And the Bitcoin price at the time was 44, and it tracks pretty closely. Up around here, it was $100 billion, and then the sales come. It's now down to 44. They saw outflows of 136 million in January, 150 in February, flat in April, May. March, April, and then May really picked up. 1.4 billion flew out the door, and 3.5 billion in June. 444 on Friday the 26th alone. So it might just be that all these investors, but especially all the brokers that said, "Oh, thank you, dear Lord, compliance department, thank you for letting my clients put 5 or 10% allocation into Bitcoin." It's July 1st. Their statements are going out in the mail right now, and they're going to see Bitcoin down 60%. And they're going to say, "What are you doing? Why?" And I know what this is like, from being a PM. You want to get your losers off the screen so you don't have to talk about it. Yes, you have the loss, but at least it doesn't sit there in the client review staring you on a white piece of paper. And so I think
light on it.
And so what I'm looking at now is 58,000 for a break and 44,000 for the break. And then I think you start going into tax selling season in December, and you really have some issues. So again, all this is a real tough space with a lot of zealots and a lot of screaming on podcasts and elsewhere. But to lose 15.
Bakes, what are you looking at to start signaling you might be wrong?
Down 15%.
How far up does that go before you?
If this thing moves from 15% from here, you're saying, okay, I'm out.
Yep.
Okay.
And dispassionately chalk it up, and I go next, and I say, it's the end of the month. I've got to go through 5,500 charts today and tomorrow, and I'm going to find the 10 best, and rinse and repeat. And this is not like Abe Vigoda. This isn't personal. This is just business.
All right.
No.
So if you want to get
plenty
short
of personal
Bitcoin,
reasons, you can get as revved up as you want to about it. I mean, it's the presidential family taking over $1 billion in profits from meme coins in the entire space.
Unbelievable.
That I don't care what your politics are. That you're the sucker at the table. Other people are more informed on this than I am. The rumors. I think Bakes is right. I think the bottom for me to get interested, it would be strategy getting flushed. Them actually trying to sell it, not just rumors of them selling it, but okay, because the immediate reaction to we're going to sell 1.2 billion of these or whatever they said they were going to sell, to who? There's just not a ton of people that are all lined up as institutions on the other side of that. There's plenty of zealots. There's plenty of people who are excited, most of whom are teeth achingly long Bitcoin already and down.
And they're long at 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000. And that's why
God forbid in a levered fund of all one form or another, which, lightly regulated, since nobody regulates anything anymore. And okay, let's see how this works. It's a system that seems like it wants to be stress tested, and I don't have a ton of confidence, or if I had a fighting dog, I wouldn't throw it into this fight.
We've talked about this before. What's the narrative? What's the story? What's the reason to come in and buy this thing or even own it at all now? I'm not seeing it.
It's getting the reads are getting thinner and thinner, and now the one I see is, well, it gets below the 200-day moving average, the 200-week moving average, really long term, and it's been a great buying opportunity for Bitcoin. And of course, as a chart guy, I say that's true when it crosses back above the 200-week moving average. So we don't have that second part of the trigger yet. And so I'm just kind of looking at this saying, I'm going to risk 15%, but I've got my popcorn out, and I'm going to queue up the Who's Won't Get Fooled again, and see what happens when people say, F Sailor, I can't believe I believed in something like this again, and I am out. And it's just going to, and then Sailor has to pay a preferred every single month, a preferred dividend every single month, and he's got to pay the convert every quarter, and all he has is Bitcoin.
The Bitcoin, yeah.
And so, it's going to get. He's not giving keynote speeches that I've seen anywhere recently. So, Scaramucci, I don't know where he is. Larry Fink has gone radio silent. So we'll see how this plays out. But I think I'm going to be right. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong 15%. And if I'm right, I think it goes to, close to zero, if not zero. And we make a lot of money.
Well, happy 4th of July anyway, I think. It seems like a good button. I mean, yeah, let's go celebrate America. Damn it. Corrupt bastards are the best. America, no one does these type of scams better than us, damn it.
There is his meme coin's down like 99%, and he made $1 billion too.
It's the greatest country on earth. It's
Indeed.
All the YouTube influencers are right. All right, boys. We'll see you
soon.
All right,
Biggs, anything else before we go? Big, we got a 9:30. We got a hard stop in 3 minutes.
No, God bless you. Pleasure to work with you. Go enjoy your 4th of July. This is the greatest country on God's earth.
Amen.
Amen.
We will not see you back here tomorrow. So everybody have a great weekend. Have a great day today. And God bless America. We'll see everybody on Monday.
Thanks, Jen. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.